60,000 people were watching Taylor Swift's performance in the stadium. No one could have predicted that the reaction coming from the front row would turn into an event that would make headlines worldwide. Swift's expression suddenly changed. Security guards rushed toward the stage. Here are the shocking truths behind what happened that night. The SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles was completely full for Taylor Swift's Eras Tour concert. On the night of August 4, 2025, fans had gathered to witness this concert they had been waiting for months. Tickets had sold out in just 12 minutes after going on sale. This indicated a record in Swift's career. As the second part of the show, that would last all night, began, the energy in the stadium had reached its peak. As Taylor finished the song Cruel Summer and moved on to tracks from the Lover album, a commotion began in the front rows. In the middle of the VIP section, a carefully dressed female fan in her 30s stood up with a large banner in her hand. The banner read, "Taylor, they're deceiving you." Taylor Swift initially thought this was an ordinary fan banner and smiled. But the woman suddenly began to shout, "Scooter still controls your albums. They're lying to you." This moment suddenly changed the atmosphere in the stadium. The smile disappeared from Taylor's face. Her hand holding the microphone trembled slightly. The woman continued to raise her voice despite the security guards around her. "It's all a game. The music companies are using you." Taylor Swift was an artist known for her professionalism. Throughout her nearly 20-year career, she had successfully managed countless crisis moments. But this time was different, because the issues the woman was shouting about were poking at a sensitive wound that Swift had been fighting for years: control of her music catalogs. Security guards quickly moved toward the woman, but the woman was resisting, trying to record video with her phone. "The world needs to know this," she shouted. This chaos lasted only 40 seconds, but it turned into a moment that would live forever on social media. Taylor paused on stage for a moment. Then, maintaining her professionalism, she approached her microphone. "We're here tonight to celebrate our music," she said calmly. "Please, let's respect each other." However, behind these words, there was a discomfort visible on her face. As the orchestra began to play the opening notes of the Fearless album, the incident seemed like just a temporary disruption. But backstage, a major crisis had erupted. Taylor's manager, T-Pain, was talking to the emergency team through her earpiece, trying to learn the woman's identity. Security camera footage was being examined, and the woman's social media accounts were being investigated. That woman was Sarah Mitchell. Mitchell, who worked as a mid-level executive in the music industry, had been sharing posts criticizing major music companies on social media for the past 6 months. But no one could have predicted that she would take such action at a Taylor Swift concert. As the concert continued, Sarah Mitchell was taken to the back section of the stadium by security. There, she was questioned by T-Pain and Taylor's lawyer, John Warren. Mitchell was sweating but determined. "I wanted to show Taylor the truth," she said. "Scooter Braun's company is still profiting from her old albums. The new deals are just a smokescreen." T-Pain was trying to maintain her composure. "What's the source of these allegations?" she asked. Mitchell replied, "I work at Universal Music Group. I saw the documents. The money flow from Taylor's old catalog is still going to companies controlled by Scooter. This claim, if true, could have a bombshell effect. Taylor Swift had been fighting to reclaim the rights to her old albums since 2019. She had tried to solve this problem with re-recorded albums like Red Taylor's version in 2021 and Speak Now, Taylor's version, in 2022. Her fans had supported her in this struggle. In 2024, Swift had announced that she had re-recorded her entire catalog and had now reclaimed all her rights. But now Sarah Mitchell was claiming that this victory was fake. While tense minutes passed in the security room, Taylor continued on stage. As she sang Enchanted, thousands of phone lights illuminated the stadium. No one could know where the echoes of the drama that took place in the VIP section would lead. Backstage, Taylor's team arranged an emergency meeting. Tour director Robert Allen asked, "Should we stop the concert?" T-Pain firmly rejected. "No, that would be exactly what she wants. We'll continue the concert, then investigate these allegations." Meanwhile, they had examined Sarah Mitchell's cell phone. There were screenshots showing internal correspondence from Universal Music Group. The images showed that the rights to Taylor's old catalog were still tied to Scooter Braun through a company called Shamrock Holdings. This, if true, meant that, contrary to the promises Taylor had made to her fans and the public, she had not fully regained control of her old music. Marcus Chen, the cybersecurity expert examining the phone, said, "These documents look real, but they could have been manipulated. We need to examine them in more detail." Treepain took a deep breath. "Let's not tell Taylor anything until we're certain. Let her finish the concert, then we'll assess the situation." This decision was critical for the rest of the night. While Taylor continued her stage performance, the incident had already begun to spread on social media. Videos taken from the VIP section during the concert showed Sarah Mitchell's banner and shouts. The hashtag #WasTaylorDeceived was quickly rising on Twitter. As Taylor sang Betty, phones were ringing frantically backstage. An urgent statement was being requested from Universal Music Group. Representatives of Scooter Braun were being called. Taylor's lawyers had begun to review the old agreements again. When the concert ended with the big final song, Karma, Taylor Swift left the stage and headed directly to her trailer. Normally, she would greet her fans and spend a few minutes with them, but this time was different. Her team backstage was waiting for her with worried expressions on their faces. Treepain explained the situation to Taylor as soon as she entered the trailer. "A woman claims that the rights to your old catalog are still tied to Scooter. She says she works at Universal and showed some documents." Taylor's face paled. She collapsed into a chair and asked for a glass of water. "Are the documents real?" she asked, her voice trembling. "We don't know yet," said her lawyer. "We're examining them. But the story is growing on social media. We'll need to make a statement." Taylor, an artist who had always skillfully used social media, took her phone and opened Twitter. What she saw shocked her. The hashtag #WasTaylorDeceived had become a worldwide trend. Videos from the concert, fans discussing Sarah Mitchell's claims, conspiracy theories. Everything was starting to get out of control. "Bring that woman here," Taylor said in a determined voice. "I want to talk to her." This surprised Taylor's team. Normally, in such a situation, it would not be recommended for the artist to speak directly with a potential threat. But Taylor wanted to take control. In the hours following Taylor's Instagram post, the music industry experienced an earthquake. The lights in the offices of major music companies in Los Angeles remained on until morning. Matthew Richardson, CEO of Universal Music Group, arranged an emergency conference call at midnight. The company's top executives and legal team were evaluating Sarah Mitchell's allegations. "Find the source of these documents," Richardson said in a tense voice, "and learn Mitchell's position in the company. How did she gain access to such confidential information?" Universal's Human Resources Department examined Sarah Mitchell's file. Mitchell was a mid-level analyst in the company's financial affairs department. She had been working at Universal for 2 years and was generally known as an employee who didn't draw attention. So how could she have accessed such sensitive information? The answer lay in a recent system update. While the company's database was being renewed, some files were temporarily made accessible to a wider group of employees. Sarah Mitchell had taken advantage of this brief period to access confidential agreement documents. Meanwhile, Scooter Braun was also in a meeting with his crisis team. Braun had been known for his catalog rights war with Taylor Swift since 2019. In recent years, with Swift re-recording her albums, public perception had shaped quite negatively against Braun. "This is a PR disaster," said Braun's communications consultant. "If these documents are true and leaked to the public, our reputation will be seriously damaged." Braun took a deep breath. "The agreement we made with Shamrock Holdings is completely legal, but the public won't understand that. They'll just think Scooter is still making money from Taylor's music." Meanwhile, a critical meeting was continuing in Taylor Swift's trailer in the parking lot of SoFi Stadium. Taylor, Sarah Mitchell, her lawyer John Warren, and her manager, Treepain, were examining the documents they had. "According to this agreement here," said Warren, pointing to a document, "when Shamrock Holdings purchased the catalog rights, they signed a profit-sharing agreement with Scooter Braun's company, Ithaca Holdings. So even though technically the rights are with Shamrock, part of the revenue still goes to Braun." Taylor shook her head, disappointment visible in her eyes. "This is not what they told me." When I spoke with Shamrock, they said Scooter would no longer be involved. Sarah Mitchell interjected. The agreement is structured very complexly. It passes through 3 different companies, so it's difficult to understand at first glance. But ultimately, about 18% of the revenue generated from your old albums still flows to bronze companies. Taylor stood up and began to pace inside the trailer. All those re-recordings, all that effort, and he's still making money from my music. Treepain tried to take control of the situation with her usual practical approach. What are we going to do now? What should our next step be? Taylor thought for a moment. Throughout her career, she had faced many crises and each time charted her own course. First, let's learn the facts completely, she said with a determined voice. I want an official statement from Universal and Shamrock. Then, if these documents are true, I'll share the whole story with my fans. John Warren warned, this could be the beginning of a major legal battle. Universal, Shamrock, and Braun all have powerful legal teams. Taylor smiled, a determined sparkle in her eyes. So do I, and I have millions of people behind me. Meanwhile, Taylor's Instagram post had gone viral on social media. The hashtag, #Justice for Taylor, had become the #1 trend worldwide on Twitter. Fans were producing theories, digging up old interviews, and sharing messages of support for Taylor's struggle. Celebrities also didn't remain silent. Selena Gomez shared a message supporting her close friend Taylor. The truth always comes out. We're with you, Taylor Swift. As the night progressed, the fan crowd around SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles grew. People began to gather with banners reading Taylor's music belongs to Taylor. Some were singing songs, while others were just waiting, quietly to show support. At 3:30 in the morning, Universal Music Group finally released a statement. We are aware of Sarah Mitchell's allegations and take them seriously. Mitchell is an employee of our company and has acted in violation of her confidentiality agreement. We are currently investigating the matter and will take appropriate measures. All our agreements related to Taylor Swift's music catalog are legal and transparent. This statement did nothing but pour gasoline on the fire. On social media, people claimed that Universal was threatening Sarah Mitchell and diverting from the main issue by targeting the employee. As dawn broke, Taylor Swift and her team were still in a meeting. The fatigue from the night was visible on their faces, but their determination remained unbroken. Universal's statement is a complete fiasco, said Treepain, reading the text from her phone. They're targeting Mitchell but not addressing the main issue. Taylor nodded. Just as I expected, an evasive answer. Still no word from Shamrock and Scooter? No, said John Warren. They're probably trying to determine their strategy. Taylor made a decision. I'll hold a press conference at noon. I'll share the documents Sarah brought and our own research. Universal may view this as a breach of confidentiality, but I don't care anymore. My fans deserve the truth. Sarah Mitchell asked, with concern. This means I'll lose my job, doesn't it? Taylor looked at her, with both gratitude and sadness in her eyes. Probably, but I won't leave you alone. We'll provide legal support and find a position for you if necessary. As the sun rose on the horizon of Los Angeles, it was clear that a great storm was about to break in the music industry. As Taylor Swift exited her trailer to return to her hotel, dozens of paparazzi were waiting to take photos. But Taylor, with her usual calmness, just smiled and got into her car. Upon returning to the hotel, she immediately began preparations for the press conference she would hold at noon with her team. Her lawyers thoroughly examined the documents. Sarah Mitchell had brought and verified their authenticity. The public relations team planned how the announcement would be made. At 10 p.m., an unexpected development occurred. Scooter Braun released a statement from his own Instagram account. I want to make a statement regarding the allegations that have emerged in the last 24 hours. All agreements made regarding Taylor Swift's old catalog rights are legal and ethical. Our agreement with Shamrock Holdings is based on standard industry practices and contains no secret clauses. The documents that Taylor and her team have may have been misinterpreted or manipulated. We are ready to resolve this issue on legal grounds. This statement didn't surprise Taylor and her team. They had anticipated that Braun would deny it. But now they faced not just big companies, but also a statement accusing them of lying. So this is how the game will be played, said Taylor after reading Braun's statement. Well then, let's expose the truth in all its nakedness. At 12 Oz, Taylor Swift held a press conference in a conference room at a hotel in Beverly Hills. The room was filled with journalists, music industry representatives, and even some of her famous friends. Close friends like Selena Gomez and Ed Sheeran were also there to show support. Taylor was dressed in a white suit with her hair in a bun. She looked professional and determined. Beside her were her lawyer, John Warren, her manager, Tree Payne, and Sarah Mitchell. She approached the microphone and began to speak. Thank you all. After the events at my Los Angeles concert last night, I want to share some truths with you. As you know, I've been fighting for the rights to my music catalog for years. When my former record label Big Machine Records was sold to Scooter Braun in 2019, the rights to the master recordings of my first 6 albums were taken from me. Since then, I've been trying to reclaim my rights by re-recording these albums. She paused and took a deep breath. In 2020, a company called Shamrock Holdings purchased my catalog from Scooter. I was told that Scooter would no longer profit from this deal. That's why I continued my re-recording process and released all my albums as Taylor's version. But last night, Sarah Mitchell, who works at Universal Music Group, showed me some documents. These documents reveal that there is a secret agreement between Shamrock and Scooter. According to this agreement, a portion of the revenue from my old albums is still going to Scooter Braun. Journalists began taking notes. Whispers rose in the room. My lawyers have examined these documents and verified their authenticity. Now, I will share these documents with you. Additionally, I am making an official request to Shamrock Holdings and Universal Music Group to disclose the details of this agreement. My fans and I have been deceived for years, and enough is enough. Taylor projected the documents onto the screen. Complex financial tables, contract clauses, and email correspondence. All of them supported Swift's claims. These documents show that Shamrock Holdings signed a profit-sharing agreement with Scooter Braun's company, Ithaca Holdings. According to this agreement, 18% of the revenue from my old albums is still going to Braun. This completely contradicts what was told to me in the public. A wave of shock spread through the room. Journalists quickly grabbed their phones and began making posts on social media. Today, we once again see the dark side of the music industry, Taylor continued. Artists are constantly forced to fight to maintain control of the music they create. This is not just my story. This is the story of all artists. This suggestion surprised his team. Scooter Braun had avoided direct communication with Taylor Swift for years. The Cold War between the two was one of the most well-known conflicts in the music industry. Are you sure? Asked his lawyer. Taylor is quite angry right now. The meeting might not be constructive. Braun was determined. It's time to end this situation now. This war is hurting both of us. I'll offer a compromise. Scooter Braun's team sent a message to Taylor Swift's representatives. Braun was requesting a private meeting. When the message reached Taylor's hotel, Swift and her team were in shock. He wants to meet? Asked Taylor, finding it hard to believe. Now, after years of avoiding me? Tree Payne advised caution. This could be a trap. Maybe he wants to calm you down and then send a message to the media saying, we met, we agreed. But Taylor thought differently. No, this is an opportunity. Maybe we'll have a chance to really talk for the first time. I showed the documents. I have the public behind me. Now the bargaining power is mine. Her team was still concerned. John Warren suggested, at least meet in a neutral place, and make sure you have me and Tree with you. Taylor agreed. A response was sent to Braun's team. The meeting would take place the next day in the afternoon in a private meeting room at the Peninsula Hotel in Los Angeles. That night, Taylor couldn't sleep. She was preparing for perhaps the most critical meeting of her career. She would be talking face-to-face with Scooter Braun for the first time. Since she started re-recording her albums, Swift had changed the power dynamics in the music industry. Now, with this meeting, she might deliver the final blow. The next day, Los Angeles woke up to a sunny morning. Taylor carefully prepared for the meeting. She wore a black suit and left her hair straight. She wanted to look professional and determined. At 2 in the afternoon, Taylor, Tree Payne, and John Warren arrived at the Peninsula Hotel. They entered through the back door, avoiding the paparazzi. A private elevator, guided by the hotel manager, took them to a meeting room on the 13th floor. When they entered the room, Scooter Braun and his two lawyers were already there. Braun, dressed in a gray suit, looked as stylish as ever. He stood up and extended his hand to Taylor. Taylor hesitated for a moment, then shook his hand. This was a meeting that had been awaited for years. "Hello, Taylor," said Braun, his voice softer than usual. "I'm glad we could finally meet face to face." Taylor nodded, her expression difficult to read. "So am I." Everyone sat down at the table. There was a tense atmosphere in the room. A war that had been waged through the media for years would now end in this room. Braun began. "First of all, I admit that the documents you shared yesterday are correct. We do have a profit-sharing agreement with Shamrock. However, such agreements are quite common in the music industry." Taylor immediately responded, her voice calm but sharp. "The problem isn't the existence of the agreement, Scooter. The problem is that I and the public were told it didn't exist. For years you've been saying Taylor's music is now completely under her own control. But that's not true." Braun took a deep breath. "You're right, but believe me, this agreement was a standard business practice. It wasn't designed to deceive you." There was a disbelieving look in Taylor's eyes. "Then why was it kept so secret? Why didn't Shamrock tell me about this agreement?" One of Braun's lawyers intervened. "There were confidentiality clauses. Shamrock couldn't disclose the details of the agreement." Trepain responded sharply. "This is exactly the problem Taylor is talking about. Secret agreements are made to keep artists in the dark." The room fell silent again. Finally, Scooter Braun spoke, his voice softer than before. "Taylor, I apologize for the mistakes I made in the past. When I bought Big Machine, I didn't fully understand how personal your albums were. I didn't know what they meant to you." Taylor was surprised. She was finally hearing the apology she had been waiting for years. However, this didn't change the current situation. "Thank you," said Taylor. "But now we're here and we need to resolve this agreement. Do you know what I want? Full control of my music, the rights to the master recordings of my old albums, and the termination of the agreement between Shamrock and you." Braun's lawyers immediately began to object, but Braun raised his hand to silence them. "What do you propose for this?" he asked. This question surprised Taylor. Was he really open to negotiation? "I want to buy the rights to the old master recordings," said Taylor. "I'm prepared to pay a fair price." Braun looked thoughtful. "This means breaking our agreement with Shamrock. Their approval is also required." "Then let's include them in this discussion too," said Taylor. "I want to solve this problem once and for all for everyone." The meeting was progressing in a more constructive atmosphere than expected. 2 hours later, Jason Miller, the CEO of Shamrock Holdings, also joined the meeting via teleconference. Miller was initially reluctant to break the agreement. "This would be a big financial loss for us," said Miller. Taylor responded without hesitation. "I'm prepared to make a fair deal with you. I'll pay whatever it takes to get back the rights to my old catalog." The meeting continued until 7 in the evening. Outside, paparazzi and fans had gathered around the hotel. No one knew what was happening inside, but theories were flying on social media. Finally, after hours of long negotiations, an agreement was reached. Taylor Swift would purchase the rights to the master recordings of her old 6 albums from Shamrock Holdings. Scooter Braun would terminate his profit-sharing agreement with Shamrock, and most importantly, Taylor would now have full control of her own music. The agreement was complex, and the details would be finalized by lawyers in the coming weeks. But the basic principles had been agreed upon. As they left the meeting room, Taylor and Scooter shook hands one last time. "I hope this will be the end of the war between us," said Braun. Taylor nodded. "My music is my life. I'm happy to have regained control of it." As she left the hotel, paparazzi were waiting to take photos of Taylor. However, Swift, with her usual calmness, just smiled and got into her car. That night, Taylor Swift shared a statement on Instagram. "Dear friends, today I had a meeting with Scooter Braun and Shamrock Holdings. After long negotiations, we reached an agreement for me to purchase the rights to the master recordings of my old albums. This means the end of the struggle I've been fighting for years. Now, full control of my music will belong to me. Thank you to everyone who has been by my side on this difficult journey, and especially, I'm grateful to Sarah Mitchell, who risked her career to reveal the truth. Sometimes, it takes courage to do the right thing. Sarah showed that courage. Now we're turning a new page. It's time to focus on my music, my fans, and the future. Love, Taylor. This post received millions of likes and comments within minutes. The hashtag #NajTaylor1 became a trend worldwide. Selena Gomez, Ed Sheeran, Lady Gaga, and many more celebrities shared messages congratulating Taylor. The next day, the music industry was a completely different place. Taylor Swift's victory was inspiring all artists. Young musicians began to examine their contracts more carefully. Record companies were under pressure to offer more transparent agreements. Sarah Mitchell, though she had lost her job at Universal, had received an offer from a better place, a high-level position at Taylor Swift's newly established music company. After taking control of her own music, Swift had decided to establish a company that offers fair terms to other artists as well. A week later, at the final Eras Tour concert in Los Angeles, when Taylor took the stage, the 70,000 people filling the stadium gave her a standing ovation. Before beginning her performance, she approached the microphone. Last week was a challenging time for all of us, but now, I want to give you wonderful news. My music truly belongs to me now, and this happened thanks to you. Without your support, love and loyalty, I couldn't have won this battle. Tonight we'll celebrate together. The stadium erupted with applause and cheers. Taylor smiled with tears in her eyes and began to play the opening notes of the Fearless album. This concert wasn't just a music performance. It was a celebration of a victory, of an artist regaining control over her own creations. And everyone present knew they were witnessing an important moment in music history. After the concert, Taylor sat in her trailer, reading the reactions on social media. Her fans continued to send their support. But the message that caught her attention the most came from Sarah Mitchell, who had disrupted her concert a week ago. Taylor, I watched your courage and determination with admiration. It's incredible to see a strong woman like you changing the music industry. Thank you for believing in me and supporting me. Together, we'll create a fairer industry. Taylor smiled and wrote back, without you, I might never have learned the truth. You're a real hero, and yes, together we'll change the music world. 3 months after this event, Taylor Swift announced her new album. The album was titled Truth Unveiled and contained songs about her struggle in the music industry. Her own name was listed as the producer, and distribution was handled by her own company. The first single from the album, The Fight for Control, broke records on the day of its release. The lyrics told the story of her journey to regain control of her music. The music video also featured an actress portraying Sarah Mitchell. The song wasn't just a hit. It was a manifesto, a source of inspiration for all artists. Its lyrics were quoted on social media, studied in music schools, and memorized by young artists. The Fight for Control won the Song of the Year award at the 2026 Grammy Awards. Taylor took the stage with Sarah Mitchell to accept the award. This award isn't just mine, said Taylor with tears in her eyes. It belongs to all artists fighting to take control of their music, and especially to Sarah Mitchell, who risked everything to reveal the truth. Sometimes the courage of one person can change an entire industry. The room gave a standing ovation. The two women standing on stage weren't just receiving a music award. They had started a revolution in the music industry. The unexpected reaction from the front row during Taylor Swift's concert had initially seemed like just a disruption. But that moment had ignited the spark of a major change in the music world. Taylor Swift's determination, Sarah Mitchell's courage, and the support of millions of fans had finally brought justice. This story wasn't just about a pop star and her rights. It was about the power of speaking the truth, the right to control your own creations, and how even one person can make a difference. As Taylor Swift continued her career, she was no longer just a musician. She was a symbol, a source of inspiration, an agent of change in the music industry. And that night, that voice rising from the front row was perhaps the most important note in Taylor's long and successful career. Because that voice had initiated Taylor's greatest victory, the victory of being the true owner of her own music. And perhaps most importantly, Taylor's victory had sent a message to the next generation of artists. Never give up control of your own music, your own art, your own story, because this is your voice, your legacy, and it's worth protecting. The reaction from the front row during Taylor Swift's concert had driven the singer crazy, and security had intervened. But that night had started a chain of events that no one could have predicted. That changing expression on Taylor's face wasn't just the capture of a moment, it was the beginning of a revolution that shook the music industry. This event didn't just remain a concert memory. It became one of the important turning points in music history. Today, it's taught in music schools as the Swift effect and shown as an example of how artists can take control of their own works. After this event, Taylor Swift continues to offer fair terms to young artists with her own music company, Archer Records, that she established. Sarah Mitchell, as the company's vice president, works to increase transparency in the music industry. And yes, the video of that concert that night still gets millions of views on YouTube. Because sometimes history is written in the most unexpected moments. Just like that night that began with an unexpected reaction from the front row at a pop star's concert.